Hi, welcome back to Spirits of Fashion. My name is Ren. Today is going to be on the playlist What They Wore. In a couple of days, I'm going to be in Holyoke, Mass, talking to some folks at the library in that town about fashions from 1912 through the 1920s. So I thought I would just give you a little tidbit here and there about the different time periods in that realm. So what I'm wearing is a reproduction of a 1912 outfit. I'll put some screenshots up there of what it looks like full length with the skirt and the boots, because I wore it many times when I was doing Downton Abbey or fashions aboard the Titanic. So I'll show you that here. Then the hat is also a reproduction, but it's just a really cool velvet hat that I can wear for a lot of different events. This costume was made overseas by a company called Recollections, which again is a reproduction fashion company. And the other dress that I've worn for Downton Abbey and Titanic, I'll put a shot here for you. I think I have a couple of shots I'll put up on the screen. That's also a reproduction. It's a much lighter weight, more of an evening costume. Think about Downton Abbey in 2012, not 2012, 1912. How about that? So just think about how they were dressed for evening. There's plenty of images of the girls, the ladies from that first season, which started in 1912. And then I'm going to be taking you again through the 20s just to show you a couple of dresses that I have in my collection. I don't wear them, even though they're still in very good condition. I don't want to strain the fabrics. They're old. They're 100 years old, and I'm not going to be doing that. So I always wear something reproduction versus having something that could fall apart on me. And I'm trying to preserve all these beautiful garments as much as I can. So here we go. I'm going to start talking about 1912 and what was going on. Of course, we know that was the sinking of the Titanic, but it's also right before World War I. So in that period, you're starting to see some changes in silhouette, much looser cuts, not so tightly corseted as we'd seen prior to that. It started around 1908 or so. Paul Poiret, a designer from France, had been making some really interesting garments for women. So it got them away from the S-bend curve, which was coming out of the Edwardian period, and into a little bit more, body type friendly clothing that people could wear, more people were able to wear without that much corseting. Corseting still existed, but it was just a different shape by then. So we're looking at a more a straight line in the 19 teens rather than having that really curvy S-bend look of the Edwardian period. So think about Rose she was played by Kate Winslet in the movie Titanic, and she was in like a more of a little bit higher waisted dress, and that was really popular for the time period of 1912. And then as the war years came in, skirts started to shorten a bit. Nothing like it would in the 20s, but they started to come up a little bit because women were doing men's jobs during World War I. Many women were working in place of the men who were fighting the war, and so they had to be in something more practical. Many of them were in the medical field. They were nurses trying to take care of the wounded soldiers, etc. So you really needed to count on something a little more comfortable. And it's interesting because as the skirt hems came up a little bit, boots became higher. So day boots, which would often have like a Louis heel, very comfortable, very sturdy, would be a little bit higher because you don't want to have bare leg, even a stockinged leg, between the bottom of the skirt and the top of the boot. Just unsightly. That was just not done back then. So they started to rise a little higher and a little higher. So that was during the war. And it's not my favorite period for ladies. I think that the bagginess was wonderful for them, but it was, I don't know, aesthetically, I don't think it was as pretty. But the times, were really dictating what fashion was going to be. I can see how the ladies would have loved the relief of some of those earlier corsets and had more loose-fitting, more comfortable garments. The next time period I'd like to cover is what happened right after the war. So interestingly, I do have a dress. I have a niece my niece who's following in my footsteps in terms of loving vintage and antiques. And she does do a side hustle with this, and she's doing very well. I love when she asks me questions about what I think something would be dated. It just makes me happy. But she had been in a yard sale over a year ago, and a woman was trying to sell a row of 20s dresses. There have to be about 10 in there in that pile. Some were later 20s, some were earlier 20s. The thing that's cool is she wanted them to go to a nice home. And I may have talked about this in another video. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But the cool thing was my niece told her about me and what I do and how I bring these beautiful pieces with me when I do an event such as I'm going to be doing on Saturday. So the woman sold them to my niece for $5 for the whole lot. It was just such a gift, and I'm trying to take very good care of them. This one right here is a perfect example, and I'll put a picture of some fashions from 1919. And being black, it's tougher to really see it. But what was happening is instead of that higher empire style waist, you started to see the waistline come down. I'm going to try to make this a little bit better in the light. There you go. So you see this wide band, and it's starting to come down. It's not at the hip level like it would be in the 20s. That's going to be a little bit later. But 1919, this is the kind of thing you would see. And you're seeing some beaded work up here, which is gorgeous. This is a black crepe dress with some chiffon covering it and chiffon sleeves. Absolutely in incredible condition. The bottom also, towards the bottom, also has some beading. And of course, this dress would be longer because we're not at the short 20s styles yet. We're just looking at a lowering waistline. Next up is really a cool day dress for the colder months. And I just think this is so incredible. This is another black dress. It's a velvet, feels like a velveteen, but it's got embroidery near the collar, and the collar is fur. It's just it feels like just a faux fur. And on the bottom, towards the bottom, now this again is 20s because this is a hip length design. All of the 20s fashions, any kind of embellishment, whether it was a belt or a sash or some kind of design, would be at hip level. And so these faux fur pockets are at hip level as well. And I love it. And then the sleeves have the same embroidery as the collar. So just a gorgeous day dress for the 1920s. I can't not smile when I see this. And again, I'm trying to take very good care of all of these pieces so I can continue to make folks happy when I do something about the 20s or about, Downton Abbey, etc. And they get to see these beautiful pieces. Lastly, I have a beautiful evening dress that came in that same yard sale lot. And it is a silk satin peach colored. I tell you, pictures just don't do it justice. It's just an amazing dress. So it's an evening dress. It's sleeveless. In the 20s, they had a little bit lower neckline for the evening. And then look at the beautiful diamante buckle right here with this, extra ribbon, extra fabric right in the front and then in the back. You can see that hanging down there. And then the bottom decoration at hip level, there's another buckle of diamante and some gathering. Looks like smocking. And it's just fantastic. It's fabulous. I can't even imagine. I wish I knew who wore it, what they did wearing this dress, where did they go. That is my favorite part of this whole situation, this whole thing that I do and I have a passion for, is the stories that if these dresses could talk, that they could tell us. And I don't know the background. Very seldom. I've gotten a lot of things from other people, but there's only a couple of garments and accessories I have that I really did get the story from about who wore it or who made it. And just a little bit of that storytelling is always a lot of fun for me if I know where it came from. So this peach dress is just stunning. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow. And libraries are great for that because they love to have teas and that kind of thing. And sometimes if I've done Downton Abbey when it was really hot, when the show was still on, I would come and do a Downton Abbey presentation and they would serve a beautiful tea. And that was just really fun and really cool. And so some libraries still do that, and I love that. And it goes well with the Downton, the whole atmosphere of having tea in the afternoon. And with the death of poor Maggie Smith, God rest her soul, she played that wonderful role. She stole all the best lines out of Downton Abbey. She played the Dowager Countess, and she was hilarious. Just put up with nothing. And so if you're familiar with that, you'll understand what I mean. And she was just an amazing actress. So I hope she's resting in peace. And with that, I'm going to keep this video a little short today. Please like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video and the history that I put out with each video. And hopefully you like the garments and accessories I do show you when I'm covering a certain period. And if you have any suggestions for other topics, eras, whatever you'd like to hear about and see from my collection, please let me know in the comments. And I hope that you're all feeling well and enjoying life and enjoying this beautiful fall weather. And I'll see you next week. Don't forget, style never dies. Bye, everybody.